when we start bashing ourselves, hating ourselves, wondering why we're at the table over and over again, or why we were at the table. And I do think in a way, well, no, most certainly, we are bashing the Creator.
I have one toenail painted from a pedicure.
Okay, so you have bad pedicure toes too. I do too.
You do?
Yeah, because I don't want to.
Yours looks so much better than mine.
I don't want to. I'm afraid.
If I had foot fetish, I would totally go for your feet.
Well, not right now, because I've been dancing. Remember, there was the dance where he super glued my toenail on.
Someone's the way you super glued your toenail.
Yeah, the guy
toddlers and tiaras
on the pedicure, and I said, okay, just do it, because I hate pain.
Who glued your toenail?
He was the man who was doing my toes. He's a really great guy. Yeah, I mean, young man. He's a fine man. He's a businessman. And he goes, no, anytime it starts to fall off again, just come in and get some more super glue. So I'll be just super gluing my toe for the rest
I wonder how many
of my
girls
life.
with their 20-inch acrylics go in. It popped off again when I was trying to open my door.
I have seen the acrylic thing, and I don't understand them because they're impractical.
Yeah, and think of all the dirt and grime that gets under them.
It's like very unsanitary.
I bet all of them have like an STD under their nail or like HPV, which is
or E. coli, or Well, I mean,
acrylic nails.
I guess if you have, but how do you handle cooking? Or
I don't know. That could be our ethical topic for Morality on an episode.
I just don't understand the whole point. Like, how do you handle a computer with nails like that?
Right? Or shaking someone's hand.
I mean, it's
scratching your face. Like, what if you have an itch?
I know, it's just like you scratch over here.
And then it pops off.
You have to scratch like 5 feet away from your ear. But
have a little scalp rub.
Well, I bet it does
one
feel
of these
good
bad
on that.
boys.
But I do think they would be excellent weapons for just a second, and then they would pop off.
It's like Wolverine.
Yeah, it would be, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wolverine. He was pretty embedded.
Yeah. He's a baddie.
His were. He was one with his nails.
His nail. I bet he got his super glue back on.
Yeah, he didn't. I bet he didn't get a pedicure.
Wolverine.
Let's go to cosmetology school just for that.
Do you want some hot stones, Wolverine? Well, Renee, Leonard Kennedy,
Anna Gray Smith. It's been forever since we've been together.
Yeah, I know. How are you doing? How's your life?
Well, let's find out, because the
tea tells the future.
Well, I have to put glasses on. My old
These are cool
eyes.
camouflage glasses.
Yeah, these are caddis glasses.
I like them.
All right. The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn.
Well, we were talking about saying squirrel. So.
Well, that was supposedly Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I'm sure he does write good. I'm not gonna diss him on that. He's a good poet. Yeah,
but like
he's
acorns?
Not my favorite. But
who thought of that? Were they like running low on Pinterest quotes? So like, well, here's one from Emerson.
I don't know. It was.
I bet the pantheists will like this one.
it is very pantheistic. Most of the tea tags are anymore. They're always about trees, which I don't mind, but I'm not worshiping them, nor am I marrying one.
It's always like trees and inner peace.
Oh, well, trees go back. I mean, they're way back in the Bible. There's a ton of. Well, we've already talked about the high places. We're not going to talk about the high places. Well, what's yours say?
You are the master of your judgments, your decisions, and your actions.
Ooh. Wow. And I'm just an acorn over here.
I'm just an acorn.
Does that mean if it came from, like, if you were a mean master and you were like, and you're the acorn that births 1,000 trees, it would be you make all those bad judgments. It's a book if you do that.
The acorn and the master?
Yeah.
Kind of like the Emperor's New Clothes, maybe?
I don't know. They've stripped of their leaves.
That's a new children's book.
Yeah.
Renee's switching her literary career now.
No, I will not.
Can I be the co-author for the inspiration? Can I have my picture beside yours?
Yes, we will have a neat moral tea book that will sell maybe one copy.
I read the quote before Renee wrote the whole book.
I found my book yesterday. It was
what?
in a store in Greensboro, Fleet and Plummer.
Wait, no way. Your book was?
I was just walking around because I was buying pillows because, my sister's coming and I have to bougify my house.
Oh, no.
And, bougify the bedroom because I'm letting her stay there because, it's a long story, but it deals with her feet as well. So I was walking around looking for things, because you have to have grown-up soap when you have guests. No soap on the stick. You can't do that. So I was in there and I just happened to look, my eyes always go to the books, and I just look and I scaled down and I went, there's my book.
You're like, oh my gosh. Did you stroke it?
No, I
That's
instantly
so cool.
took a video of it, and then lately I was going to put it on, what is it? Story. She goes, Mom, this is post-worthy, real worthy.
It is post-worthy. Did you post it?
Well, I did. But only because she told me and she knows that stuff better than I.
Did you have an out-of-body experience?
No.
And buy your own book?
No. No. I wanted to keep it. I wanted to
just
keep
put a bunch of your copies over the other copies of the other books.
No. I know it was in there with Jesus Calling. I'm not going to mess with
Whoa! Put it in front of Jesus Calling.
No, I wouldn't. But, everybody who's going to buy one of those, I think it is a good store for it because it's a place that people go, to buy gifts, to put in other bags and all that kind of thing. So it's a good place for it. But enough of moi. What about you?
Link it in the
link in the bio. Yeah.
This is a perfect opportunity to self promote.
Yes. What, do you want to self promote?
No, I don't have anything to promote.
You have your blog.
Well, that's just kind of a rookie blog. It's like my secret blog.
But you were the
Only
kid
if
who was
people really look at my Facebook and see where I linked it when I vanished from social media 4 months ago.
Well, but no.
There's a subscribe
your blog
option at the top.
14 was somebody wanted to pick that up and monetize it.
Well, this is when I was 14. This is a different blog than that. That was blogging. That was blogging 13 years ago.
What did you speak about in your 13-year-old blog?
Oh my gosh. Okay, when I was 13, I actually talked about how I hated singing hymns in church. I read these out loud to my parents.
Wow.
I was really brutally honest. I talked about Adam Lambert on American Idol. I was convinced that he wasn't gay, and I really was had a huge crush on him.
Oh, so you were going to change him.
Frodo Baggins and Adam Lambert were my biggest crushes as a kid.
No, Frodo deserves. Well, I was more of a what is it? The Wuhan
Smeagol?
King. No, Smeagol. Smeagol never did that for me.
Imagine waking up to that voice every morning.
I have to shut my eyes every time he eats the fish.
Ooh, be like salmon.
No, I love salmon.
Y'all are totally compatible.
No, but have you ever seen him? Do you keep your eyes open during that part?
Yeah.
It's really
when
disturbing.
he's ripping it apart?
Yes,
that is really disturbing.
Yeah.
You like the Rohan guy?
Yes, I love the Rohan.
Is that Eowyn's hubby?
No, it's Eowyn's. I always stick to my age.
Oh, Aragorn.
No, I mean, yes, he is very nice, but he's still too young.
Who French kisses Arwen at the end that you so kindly noted.
I did.
Tongue.
As far as kisses go on screen, that was a very good kiss, but you all found it disturbing.
You could see his tongue, though. That was a good catch.
I did catch that. But no, the king of Rohan, Riders of Rohan, the older guy.
Oh, who ends up dying.
Well,
when Eowyn's like, I'm going to save you, and she doesn't actually save him.
I've always liked him as an actor.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah.
Wow, let's see you have a crush on that. That's your celebrity.
Well, and also the elf king. I like him.
Who's the?
I
forget. Long blonde hair.
Yeah. What? No.
Oh, so you like the silver?
Think of my age.
I bet he uses shimmering lights.
No, think of my age. He's the one with the gray hair. He's a great actor. He's in so many things. He played Mr. Anderson in The Matrix.
My gosh, Arwen's dad.
Yes.
He's in
everything.
He's so brutal though when he's like, immortality. like goes into mortality spill when she's like, Daddy, I love him.
Yes.
And he's like, psych, you gonna die.
And then she looks at my dad. She
With
should
the
have said,
one
Dad,
tear.
you lied to me.
Daddy, with like no personality. Dad, you lied to me.
No, she didn't. She said, you did not tell the whole truth or something like that. But he didn't. He did lie to her.
Yeah. We've all been lied to. The truth. Oh.
Yeah, about the son.
Daddy
that they were going
betrayed
to
her.
have. Yes. Speaking of men.
Speaking of, I was thinking that too.
Segue. So
you messaged me a really authentic thought. I felt like it was really from your guts and soul. Do you want to explain?
Well, yeah,
we were searching for a topic.
We were searching for a topic, and of course, I was out on a walk, and yesterday was just a funky door. I walked through a funky door. It was a funky day. Yeah, I woke up and I was supposed to start my journaling with Holy Work is a journaling thing that I'm taking, and you do it every day, but you meet every Tuesday in the morning, on every Tuesday morning, and you do it together. So it's very, very interesting, and I've loved it. I've only done it 2 days, but actually I was supposed to start yesterday, but instead I was writing a defense on why I felt something.
Ooh.
I was like, okay, I tried to read Psalm 25, but it was just railing up in me. And it turns out, I'm a member of a lot of groups, and you are too. Some meet in public and some meet on Zoom. And I do all sorts of business on Zoom. And they always tell you it's the best thing to be the dumbest person in the room. And it really is, because you're surrounded by the right people. And I think it's a great thing. But at the same time, it's a very hard thing when you feel like the dumbest person in the room all the time. And that just the minute you open your mouth, you feel like, you have that pounding. I don't know about you. I have a pounding in my heart when I know I'm supposed to speak up to something. And I had planned not to speak. I didn't want to. I knew I was not, grounded as I should be. But this topic came up, and it was very near and dear to my heart. And my heart started da 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 da, and I was like, God, do I? And I'm like, I don't know if he said anything or could even get through the chatter.
Was the atmosphere like uptight and like?
No. It was it was a great thing that was going on. But I spoke, and I do me when I speak, and it's usually wandering, as the podcasters who listen to us like and subscribe understand. I'm a rather there's no A to Z with me. It's all, I've always said that I'm that little circle on your phone, but eventually there's a point. So I gave my 2 cents on it, and then afterwards, it went to a different conversation. The same conversation, but a different angle. And and this is when I text you. I said, I just feel stupid every time I open my mouth in a room that's populated with the opposite sex.
Ooh, so was it all like a male dominant?
No,
meeting?
It wasn't. There were plenty of females.
But
it's just, I feel if they're a male, again, and I know we've tackled a little bit of this, but particularly in a group setting, if I'm one-on-one with somebody, I don't. Or, in a smaller group. But when I'm in a Zoom meeting and there's, men, and it's, whatever it is, I just feel like the stupidest person. And usually it's business related, or they're talking about business, or sometimes it's vulnerable things. But this one happened to be a vulnerable thing. So I thought, I can speak into this. I have.
Was it like the slow blink they give back, or it is like?
No, I couldn't even see, which was beautiful, because my phone, the internet was not doing that well. And so I wasn't watching. I was just talking into the phone. But I just felt that.
Like tension?
Oh, no, I just felt like, why is it like I thought certainly I'd be grown out of that insecurity at 62. I'm like, am I always going to deal with this?
Is it like self-doubt? Do you feel like after you walk away from it, do you like almost mentally rehearse it over and over and over again? Curious, because I do that all the time.
Well, no, I'm just plugging in and like, well, was it valid?
Yeah.
Was it intelligent? Did I speak truth? Was it useful? Did I need to speak up at all? And all these things. So, I mean, it's the gamut. I'm just questioning myself. I don't run it through. And then because usually when I speak up and things like that, I cannot remember what I say, which is probably a blessing.
Grab it left.
I mean, I remember the focus, but I don't remember how I said it. And so, I just walk away from these things and it just becomes a slam, like, why are you so stupid? Why didn't you do this? Why da 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 da?
Do you feel like it's only like any males, or do you feel like it's when it's a room full of like a co-ed situation where it's highly intelligent men, or is it just like any situation for you involving the male specimen?
Well, I do
just
think
curious.
It does have to do with business males, but no, not just business.
Who are like
males.
In your same kind of race that you're running.
Well, no, it's even in writing world. I can feel this way, and I can feel this way in anything. When I feel very comfortable around females. So, but if I think it does have something to do with, that, it just seems like. Sometimes you're listening to people talk and you're like, well, they have it going and they have, issues that have bypassed me by now because of my age. I'm not as active in business as I used to be and things like that. And so, you don't see it as the same thing, even though I'm involved in a family business that still is requires a lot of thought and doing. But it is usually, maybe that's it. I just feel the insecurity of being stupid.
I feel it though because I almost feel like I have to overprove myself in certain environments. Like for me, it's certain types of men. So I guess kind of the same thing. But it can sometimes be women as well, depending on the personality type. Yeah. But I will say, and I'm going to sound like a radical feminist saying this, but I don't mean it this way. In heavily male-dominant environments, I feel like I'm not taken as seriously. But for me, it's usually more an age thing than, I guess, even gender. Yeah. Like when I'm the youngest person in the room, right. I feel like people don't take me seriously. And I had a similar moment to like what you described. Here I am talking with my hands.
Well, let's do. Podcasters who listen, we're talking with our hands. We always do.
Yeah. So maybe I would lean more on.
Well, tell us you're going to tell us that situation.
Well, there was a situation a couple months back because just like yourself, I'm a part of different like communities and groups, both online and offline. But I was sitting in a room full of people and I was, I had some things that also were weighing on me as well. And this was for more of a business type aspect. But I brought up a few things and it was almost a debate. And I was like, it was nothing explosive or bad, but I just was really like standing really firm on a certain value. Right. And I felt like everybody else in the room was much older than myself. And I just felt incredibly unheard. I felt like I was seen as this stupid, naive little girl. And someone made one comment that just like, oh no, I felt myself want to humble brag. And like almost overprove like my skill sets and this. So yeah, it wasn't a rude comment per se, but it just was like a little, to me, my ego took it as a jab because people were bringing these ideas. And this one person brought up two people who were like far more experienced. They're like, well, they've, been doing so-and-so this X amount of years. Right. But in my head, I'm thinking, well, I've also worked with these types of people. Right. And, hi, I've lived on my own since this, a young age in my early 20s. Like, right. I'm not
You're
just
seasoned.
I'm not just a newbie rookie on the block with what this discussion was. I had what I felt were valuable opinions, and in my head I'm just going through like my roster of, well, I've had these internships and I've had these, and if I could just list all this right now, I would outprove all of you in your years of experience, my elders.
Whoa, throw it in.
Yeah. But did it bother me? And they weren't saying the comment, and they weren't meaning it like in a bad way, but they were just specifically pointing out people just based on their years of experience, and that they were obviously older than myself.
Were they trying to establish authority?
Pull the mic down. They were essentially designating some people as they should have more trust, and not more trust, but just suggesting that they should have that because of their years of experience, they have more this wealth of knowledge. And, but they looked at me and they said, Anna, we know that. Oh, how did they put it? This was the salt in the moon. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of what it was, but it was like, they said, no offense, Anna. And I was just like, oh.
I hate when they say that. Yeah. It's like they were literally verbally patting you on
that was
head.
It. Then, no offense, Anna. And like, and again, they weren't meaning it in this rude kind of way, but I just sort of, politely chuckled. And in my head, I'm thinking, because my defense mechanism is like to pull out my roster of things I've accomplished to be like, yes, I'm 28, but here you go. I let my work speak for itself.
Yeah.
Which I also realize is a problem because I then have to like ego stroke myself.
Yes.
To overcompensate, prove myself. Yes. So I'm curious if you feel that way with the male gender.
No. Well, yes.
This was a co-ed thing too, by the way.
Well, actually, no, I don't. I just live in self-worth. I mean, selflessness and loathing, kind of the Grinch thing.
Oh, self-loathing?
Yes.
Oh,
I just
really
go,
sad.
you are, I start listening to voices in my head. And it's not really loathing. It's just, it starts out, okay, I recognize it's a blessing to be around intelligent people, and being the dumb person, the dumbest person in the room. It really is a blessing because you learn so much. But at the same time, you walk away from the meetings, and I don't know, maybe guys don't walk away from meetings like we do on the Zoom and all that. But I walk away and I just like, dang, I contributed nothing. I'm not really valuable here. Should I even be here? And I've heard other women who are running businesses who don't have the same status, and I do think it has something to do with status.
Yeah, I feel that.
And she wondered why she was even at the table, because they invited her, but then
you're like, I'm nothingness and crumbs.
Well, it's not even that. They're talking about situation. They're talking about things that don't even apply. Sometimes because it was a different level of business. So I don't know. I think the status thing is really, really important to pay attention to.
Well,
I think it has something to do with humility in me and humility in others. If we feel worthy, then we're feeling. I know that sounds scary. My dog.
I'm listening. She gagged and you're like, they're licking.
She's going, I'm done with this.
Sorry, continue. I was like engrossed in your thought.
I was speaking of status. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, but if I feel like I have status, I mean, it is a humility. I have to watch it because I have a humility issue. And when I say status, Stephen James, he's a novelist, and he writes about the status of a character who has the status in this role and all that, and who has the leg up, who's the one who is in charge and who's the one who's not. So if I have, if I am in a room of people, let's say a writing group or something like that. Now, if I'm in a bestseller writing group, I would laugh because I'm like, okay, you all speak a different language. You're different. But if I'm in a room of writers and authors who are just working hard and they love it, in which bestsellers do, I would feel more comfortable because the status, I'm more on a even, status quo.
It kind of feels like an even playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
And
versus
so,
feeling like the rookie.
Or even insignificant and not worthy. And so I think that really plays a big part in it. And it's kind of a shame because you play, why can't we just fit in where we're at?
Well, this is like exactly how I felt at the conventions, like NRB, our first year.
Wow.
This is exactly what's coming to mind because like I remember because we had just launched Moral Tea.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Barely a month before because it was in May, the first year in Orlando.
Let's do a show.
Let's do a show. Yeah. And then we were invited by In-Game Press, Renee's publisher.
Right.
And I remember so distinctly, like, sitting on the bedroom floor and just thinking in my head, I don't belong here. All these people are like beautiful golden retrievers. I feel like a mutt. Like I'm not a podcaster. I'm just a girl.
And I felt the same way, except for I had to say an old woman. But no,
oh my God.
I remember being down waiting for you, and I'm thinking, oh, we don't belong here, but please let her show up. Please let her show up. Please show up.
I just like rapture.
Because I was like, I'm going to be all by myself if you don't show up. But we did. You did. And I mean, wonderful things happen. Maybe, maybe that's something to keep in mind for later on after we kind of parse this out a little more, that the surprise does happen if we stick long enough. Yeah. But as for the emotions, it was weird. It was weird at NRB because nobody knew us. And it was really funny when people came to talk to us. I think we had 20 subscribers or something.
Yeah, we didn't even have 30 subscribers yet.
Yeah, and we're like, are you sure you want to talk to us?
There's epoch times. There's
yeah, we had.
Oh my gosh.
And I just remember I'd like to do your podcast, and I'm like, I'm going.
Have you seen our stats?
Yeah. Do you know? We look really good with our sets and
the
everything.
wait list too of like, here's my business card, here's my story.
I didn't realize that. That's what we need to do.
Let me sell my trauma really quick and like try to make this seem somewhat ethical.
Yes, it was. Yeah, we got a lot of pitches.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. And we're like, our setup looks really good. Have you seen our stats?
But how did we overcome that?
I think
we didn't have time to.
No, honestly, I think it's facing the fear in and of itself, because it's not that I'm saying it's inherently a fear, the feeling of unworthiness and, self-deprecation, because I very much feel those same things in certain environments and with certain people, and personality types. But I think it's, for us in that circumstance, we had no choice. Yeah. But I think, we technically did. We could have packed up after the first one. Woo!
We could have not shown up.
Which
I think is really interesting.
But I think it's realizing I think it is coming to a point, though, of realizing that you have value.
Right.
Because it's not that we were in some place of, like riding on this high horse, but we just went through with it and the discomfort, and having the conversations and saying yes to the opportunities, even when the people we interviewed clearly had thousands, millions more likes, subscribers, platform than we had. But I think it's this feeling of actually we really are on the same playing field. Like we're all humans. And as one of my former teachers said, at the table, people can always scoot over and make room.
Ooh, I love that.
Woo! Kathy Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. So what you're saying is really, it's an insecurity issue.
For me, it is. Yeah. And I think that insecurity and unworthiness can kind of feed off each other. Yes. For me, they do. Yeah. Because when I feel like I don't have value, when I feel like I have nothing to bring to the table, I feel like the really stupid girl who, you know, doesn't have valuable input. It doesn't even feel really insecure. It makes me feel like I am my 13-year-old self trapped inside my 28-year-old body.
That is exactly what it feels like.
You shrivel up.
And then when I said I thought I'd be over it by 62, I'm reduced down to that little girl in 4th grade who had studied really hard for the multiplication test and, you know, tanked on it. And then the teacher, no joke, this is a true story. I don't know if I shared it, but Miss Sora took me outside and outside the room, and she was known for taking people out to paddle them.
Ugh,
and I'm thinking,
for a grade?
But yeah, her big, but no, not her grade, but other things.
Oh.
But she didn't have her paddle. So I just remember looking at her. She felt like, 18 feet tall. And I just looked at her and she goes, Renee, I know that you know this. I know that you studied. I know that you work hard. You have a mental block.
Whoa.
And I'm going, I was like, you're in 4th grade. You're like, mental block. Okay. Explain that. She goes, that's when you let fear overrun your mind, even though you've prepared. And you let it run away with itself. And my little spaceship was on the second, number 2 multiplication spots. And she had the big all the way to the 12. And all the other kids were, heading up at the 12. And she goes, I want you to go in there and you're going to retake this test. And I'm like, pain and agony. No. And I go in there and I will never forget this, Anna Gray. I'm so old. Think this is from 4th grade.
You have like stockings.
She gets my rocket ship after she checked my paper, and I'm like, pins and needles. It's my rocket ship saying, but she touched my rocket ship. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go 5 or 6 or something. She goes all the way to the 10s. And so I was up in the running with everybody else, because everybody was in 10 to 11 to 12. So it was really interesting when we changed our perspective. And I'm wondering when we do come to the table and we don't feel like we're bringing anything, if in a way we're not doing some sort of mental block and just saying, we're forgetting who our creator is and who created us, and that we are there for some reason and that we're valuable. And so I think it's really important, as our sage wisdom from our Lily said, says, you were valuable. She said that to somebody in our family last night.
Lily?
Yeah.
Oh,
she
my
was
gosh.
like, you're really valuable and you count. And don't, how did she say it? Don't, she didn't say but don't, don't blame don't take it out on God because he created you. In other words, don't diss God because you are his creation. And I wish I could say the words that she said, but she was totally right. Like when we come down hard on ourselves, and I think ultimately that may be what it is that we are looking at ourselves so hard that we're tearing ourselves to pieces, and we don't know what is going on with what we said to other people. We're just making judgment calls like your tea bag said.
It should just be like the description I feel it though, because it almost can feel like you're under a microscope sometimes. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And it's this idea of like wanting to know people's thoughts, wanting to be approved, wanting to have their stamp of reassurance after reassurance. And I realized I was telling Dima yesterday. Yeah. I was like, I've learned that I cannot get enough reassurance. You have to find it literally inwardly, which...
He said that?
I did.
Oh, wow.
Because it's something I'm learning, not in a cocky kind of way, but I look to people to validate, to reassure, whether it's in a context of bring forth an idea, or a skill set or something I'm working on or something I'm doing. For me, it's like if I don't hear it from somebody else, that almost feeds into the thought process of, oh, wow, I don't bring anything to the table.
Right.
And then I start to think, but like, what am I trying to prove? Who am I trying to prove this to? Why do I need their approval? But yet at the same time, I have those simultaneous emotions of like, I feel like I'm naked under the microscope, and I don't know. That's how it feels for me. I feel like really vulnerable with people who are like really good at things that I'm good at, or just if I don't feel heard, it makes me cringe very much.
I like what you were talking about on the validation. So talk to me a little more about that, because I do think there's something there, the approval thing.
Yeah.
It had someone said, if one person, and this probably goes back way to our childhood, but if one person had said that's a great idea, Renee, or that's a thank you, but it wasn't that, and it rarely, later I'll hear in different things, I never thought of that this way, or that was a great thought you had. But it's just, maybe it's the way meetings are, the construction of meetings, where you don't just say, that's a great idea. But I always tend to be verbally encouraging.
Yeah.
But not everybody is. And so you have no idea.
Like silence can feel more crippling than words, because then it gives you the chance to like almost try to mentally assess or put idea or like assume everyone's thinking the worst, because I always assume people are thinking the worst if I don't hear something good.
Yes.
I'm like, well, they hated that. Well, that was shite. Well, I'm a failure.
Well, and then I also go into, that was touchy-feely. I always make it personal. Well, not personal, but like not business. But, sometimes I'll make things like, I always tell a story. It's just the way I'm built. And I'll just tell a quick story about something. If I feel like that's the way I talk, and it drives everybody crazy because I don't go straight from A to Z. Other people go to A to Z, and I'm in a to Z world, and I'm the circle. And maybe that's part of the problem is I don't know if I should develop that skill, but it feels a little late at 62.
I don't think anything is too late.
Well, I don't know if I want. I think, but sometimes I wonder, does it have to always be A to Z? I'm not making judgment calls on their A to Z. They're just being A to Z. That's the way they think. So I guess I am my own worst critic. I mean, what about you?
I mean, I second that 100%. I personally, like I said before, I subconsciously look for validation. Like I feel like I am not good enough at something and that I suck at it if I actually don't hear the words. And I've actually been called out on that by some people over the summer who, and I'll talk more about it later, but it actually completely changed me as a person. Not like, oh, I'm suddenly a new person, but my inward thought process of being able to start to notice that.
Well, is it necessarily a bad thing?
Validation in and of itself is not a bad thing, but when it's relying on somebody else to always give you the green light for something, I definitely think it is, because it's giving other people way too much power.
Right.
For myself, at least, I realize I give everybody else's words and validation and reassurance. That's what I constantly realize I need in relationships and friendship. Well, not as much friendships, actually. I feel confident in those.
Which makes us feel needy.
Sometimes, and reassurance, it's not something like I sit and beg for, but in my subconscious, I hope for it. And if I don't get it, then I assume that I'm doing badly at something, that I'm not good enough, worthy enough, beautiful enough, talented enough. Like the silence to me literally says, you suck. And that's it. But it's crazy because words do have so much power. And sometimes I think, would I rather hear something completely negative than nothing at all? But then that also plants like, the seed of doubt in my head. But hearing something affirming is also extremely powerful because it's like looking at somebody and calling out like what's inside of them and validating it in such a way that it doesn't necessarily have to give them permission, but it's like a healthy kind of reassurance. But I think when that is what fuels you and it's never something where you feel that you just house it within, not to sound, Buddhist and woo, but I don't think it is, I think that
we have wisdom.
Yeah, and I don't think it's arrogant at all to feel reassured. I think it's just as toxic to, I would say even sinful too, to self-deprecate to levels, because you're essentially like putting like this hatred on your own self and identity.
Yeah, I want to get to, because I think that's what Lily was alluding to. Is when we start bashing ourselves, hating ourselves, wondering why we're at the table over and over again, or why we were at the table. And I do think in a way, well, no, most certainly, we are bashing the Creator. So speak on that some more.
I feel like you're doing great.
No, it feels to me, if we're made in the image of God, we should have a little, and it's that trick. It's tricky. It's that we should have that respect for the way He created us. Obviously, in the way that we're working and trying to do everything. Even in the little prayer prompt I had today with my holy work journaling, it talked about just asking God, please. I forget. I don't have it memorized yet, but I will by the end of this year probably. But help me do my best in all situations as only I can do. And it's kind of giving you freedom to say, okay, what I do is the way the Lord wired me up. Now, and I'm not saying being sinful acts sinful, but in creative ways, in business ways, whatever comes to mind, and you feel you've asked for wisdom for that day, you've asked for his knowledge, to feel that we do have something that might, and if you've got that burning, that burning desire to speak, then there's a reason for that,
I agree. Yeah. And I think I look to other people's opinions as right or wrong when I'm like, what if I have it correct? And it's just their subjective opinion, right. And that's something I've started to try and notice more and more too, is everyone's viewpoint and just experience of life as is so subjective, right. And what one person likes, someone else might dislike. But I think the reassurance that, for me, the constant need I've realized in myself for reassurance, for validation, affirmation of some sort, has revealed how not only the power I hand over to people, but as almost seeing people as like a savior of sorts. Yes. And that they have the power and control over me to say what I should do or what I should not do. Yeah. And someone over this summer, this changed my aspect towards almost everything I do. It's not that I just suddenly have this abundance of like confidence, but it's just made me start to be so much more aware. She said, Anna, I'm not going to actually make this decision for you, because I was wanting a suggestion for something. And like, should I do this? Should I do this? Or should I do this? Like, which should I prepare? I don't know. And she smiled and she said, I'm going to let you choose. She said, because the minute you start handing this over for everyone else to choose, you're giving them power over you and what your, aesthetic taste is. So she said, I'm going to let you choose, and you bring this back to me and we'll work on it. Wow. And I was like freaking out, because I'm like, I need you to choose, like, give this to me. I need to know it's going to be good enough. And if you, in my head, I was really thinking that, like, if she chooses all this for me, that will be well. But she's like, nope, I'm actually going to hand the power back to you. And, I think that,
well, that allowed you to be creative. That allowed you to use the talents and the knowledge and the wisdom that the Lord's given you.
Yep.
I can see the empowerment of that.
It was very, and I felt so gutting, but in the best of ways, because it came right back to the same, concept of like, okay, I'm needing that constant like reassurance or for someone else to like spoon feed me what I need to do versus going based off of like, what do I as Anna Gray Smith actually like, actually dislike?
Right.
You know,
that's what Dan's always saying.
Yes.
What are your likes? What are your dislikes?
I had Dan in mind when I said that. I'm like, whoa, I hear the spirit of Dan.
Yeah, he's mighty. Okay.
Does that make sense though?
Yes,
I feel like it just went squirrel.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's flipped my world upside down.
So you've started isn't it weird how one person can speak something into your life when they choose to?
Yeah.
And it does something for you.
It does.
Yeah.
Which is funny that validated something I didn't know I needed, but in a different kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me also very conscious of the way I use my words to other people. Because you want to, being an encourager is a great thing. It's very easy to flip over into flattery, which is a sinful thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So I want to be careful about that. But it's neat to be able to just use the gifts that the Lord gives you. And you see something and you encourage somebody. And it, and it's not validation, but it's encouragement. But the problem is you have to be careful because I can really slip over into what I will do in a big setting a lot of times is slip over into encouragement as a block, as a safety zone for me.
Ooh.
So that I don't have to be vulnerable or someone, it serves as a protection.
That's so interesting because then it prevents you kind of from like receiving other people's like goodness to you too. Do you feel like it's hard for you to receive like compliments, affirmation, goodness from people?
Oddly, yes. And what am I moaning and groaning about right now?
I know.
So oh my goodness, you just rocked my world. So yes, I do.
What do you feel like when people say something to you like, wow, you're beautiful, Renee? Or, whoa, your book is amazing. Like, do you feel almost like you have to deflect it?
Yeah.
This isn't like right or wrong. Just
no, I mean, it's a weird place.
Yeah.
To say, it's gracious when you see people say thank you. And then, of course, we go back to what Jenna Sims said that one time. Renee, you had nothing to do with the color of your eyes.
Ooh, Jenna.
So if someone tells you they're, a pretty color, pretty blue or something, you can say just thank you. But it's not on
Do you feel like guilty sometimes for receiving?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you?
I do. Yeah. No, I do sometimes.
That?
I think also unworthiness. I really.
It's a double-edged sword. Then.
Yeah,
we don't get validation, and then we can't
get
receive.
it, and then you're like, no, stop, get it.
Yeah,
middle finger, get away from me. Why are you being so nice? Can you spit on me instead?
Yeah, can you do a voice memo on that?
Can you do a voice memo
and then write it down?
Isn't it interesting though? Because deep in my heart, I'm thankful for it, but I feel suddenly so vulnerable receiving something.
Yes.
Because then all these thoughts go through my head of, well, what if they're lying? Well, what if this? To where I start still projecting stuff where I'm like, I'm getting the very things I seek, and yet I still push it away.
That is so weird. So not getting the validation and getting the validation, neither one are we comfortable with.
No, and that's why it's like, it's such an inward process, which is really hard. Not that it's like, oh, I love myself, self-love, but like, it's a different
I don't know what to do with that.
It's a lot to think about.
I mean, what do we do?
I think it causes you to go really deep inward and probably really deep into prayer and some soulful, reflection.
To be comfortable in our skin.
Yeah. Because I think that culturally there's a lot of buzzwords like self-love, self-care. But I've been listening to this really great podcast called On Attachment by Stephanie Rigg. And she actually she talks a lot about anxious attachment and avoidant. But it has rocked my world. It's more from a psychological perspective. It's not a Christian perspective, but it's fantastic. It's really, really impactful in a lot of what she says. But she talks a lot about self-respect. She doesn't disregard self-love, but she really dismantles the societal like way we see, you know, self-love, self-care, confidence, because it tends to have these really band-aid like symptoms. She said, she's this Australian lady and I love her voice.
That's always
she's like my bedtime podcast and it like lulls me to sleep while I also feel like I'm doing something better for my life. And I'm like mesmerized by her accent. So it's great. But she talks about like self-respect and cultivating things in such a way that, you know, your choices and how you set boundaries with other people and in your own personal life. And, you know, ultimately figuring out what your values are is what she gets to, which is what then strengthens the self-respect that you have for yourself, you know, and having a moral compass, having values. So even though it's not like a Christian perspective she's taking, it's very, very true in the avenue that she takes the idea of self-respect versus like self-love and just, you know, I'll just think positive thoughts about myself and take a salt bath. You know,
I think we have those though. Yeah. I think we have a moral compass. I think we have.
Well, she's just talking about like really refining, not necessarily moral compass, but especially your values, is what she really hits on, but also in just day-to-day situations with people and navigating like, you know, situations and things because of the values that you have, and the stronger you are in your values, which then cultivates in you being able to say no to things that you don't stand for, you know, and speaking up when you need to speak up. Like it all kind of is a simultaneous thing.
I think the idea that we want validation and we can't receive validation. I have no doubt that there's at the heart of this some sort of, I hate to say it, the self-respect thing, but it may be some sort of pride thing.
I think so, yeah.
Like I think it may be a pride thing. Oh, there's original thought.
I think it might be a.
Let's really put a stake in it. Pride.
Yeah.
Okay. So
no, I think so too.
How do you think it is?
Ooh, well, when you really dissect the layers, I think, on the opposite end of the spectrum of self-deprecation, unworthiness, it's kind of seeking to fill a really temporary void and wanting to be seen in a certain light versus already just living out who you are and your values and what you know to be true. So for me, it's like I want to feel like I have a good image. That's what I would say is my image. I get greatly like territorial over that. And there are really small things.
Are you referring to like reputation? Okay.
My image. Yeah. Definitely my reputation for sure.
Well, I didn't know if that's what image meant to you in that context.
I think so. Yeah. And how I want to be perceived by people, because I have this perfect idea in my head. Everyone's ideal is different, but I think that for myself, at least, there's this really certain way I want to be perceived, which goes back to like, I don't want to be the youngest person in the room and like just feel trash and stupid, like hence having to dig out my roster of accomplishments, which also is pride. And I touched on this in another podcast, but like even, using the places I've lived or the things I've done. Not that anytime I bring that up, it's, I need to ego stroke, because it naturally sometimes will just come into conversations. But I have my checklist, my humble bragging like narrative in mind whenever I feel one up by someone. So instead of criticizing them, and combating it with toxicity, I have this narrative in my mind of, well, I'll combat it with the things I've done, so that they can see me in a different light, so that my image seems like this prestigious, like, I don't lose my shite ever, even though I'm like, actually, I'm still trying to find my way, and I'm 28 and I don't have my life together.
And I'm 62.
And I cried on my kitchen floor last night. Yeah.
Did you?
No, not last night, actually. But I did a couple months ago.
I remember that.
Yeah. What about you, Renee Leonard Kennedy?
About my pride?
Sure.
I feel like I'm filled with it. And
but in the context of being among like the golden retrievers at the table.
Well, I forgot what I was. I'm not an otter. I don't know if I'm a lion, all that stuff, that whole test thing.
Zodiac sign?
No. There's this thing going around the church. You're an otter, you're a golden retriever, you're a lion, and you're a...
Sounds like super
what's
Baptist or charismatic.
Yeah, it's super Baptist. I guess it is. But people talk about them. Yeah, it is. It's very much like that. But it's they use animals. No, it's really hard. And, I found myself preaching at one of my kids, like, you need to get out of your head. You need to start thinking outward, thinking of others and blah, 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 blah. Well, now, we both know that we both think of other people, right? And I also know she thinks of other people. But the idea of I'm like starting this out, get out of your head. I'm like... I'm one to talk.
Like, dang, I should write this down and take my advice sometime. Like that was a good one, Renee.
But then you think about it logically, you cannot get out of your head.
Yeah, you feel trapped. It's awful.
But I think there's a different way with the brain trying to figure out, or the mind construct, that, we try to bow to others in the correct way, like Philippians 2, where the Lord humbled himself. And that's our go-to. We want to be that kind of person. But he's so grateful. I'm just so thankful that the Lord is a very merciful God, because there'll be times I'll say something and I'm thinking, okay, that's the right thing. That was the good thing to do. And I'm like, oh, my motives suck.
Oh, that's really important, though. Motives are everything.
Motives are everything. And I said, Lord, and I was laughing. And I don't know if I included this on another podcast, but I was laughing with him. I said, thank you for pointing out that motive. I said, please don't ever stop pointing out my bad motives. I guess the human condition, the walk in our Christian walk, is he's always gracious, but our motives are always going to be questionable in most things, because we are selfish beings and we have other things going on in our mind.
I think it's like also easy to take our motives, because I think it is good to realize when it's like a selfish motive or for self gains, but I feel like they can also feed into like destructive, for me at least, like I'm actually a terrible person, and the like even more the self-doubt and really self-deprecating thoughts as is, because then it's like, oh well, great, I have like bad motives too. But it's interesting, like, I don't know, taking note of it, but then realizing, wait, I still have a choice. I can like, it doesn't mean it's like this permanent kind of a thing, or, one bad motive or even personality trait, like suddenly dubs you as like subhuman, which is how I get. It's like I'll take something where I'm like, oh, I knew what I was doing there. And it like further feeds into.
Well, I think if we check it against the Bible, and if what we did was to the best of our ability according to the scripture, he can point out the motives, he can correct it. But I think sometimes, if you think about it, obviously we pray. Sometimes we don't have time. Sometimes you have to decide, do I give this person some money right up here because they need it, and you don't even have time to think because it's a quick transaction. Or do I not run the yellow light? And you decide,
oh, dang, Renee.
Yeah. Well, no, but then you realize it was really a good thing that you didn't,
or
because you would have been, yeah. So I think sometimes we have to act to the best of our abilities, knowing that the Holy Spirit lives in us. But at the same time, we're going to still mess up on this side of eternity. And then when the new heavens and the new earth comes, man, it's going to be a thing of beauty. Because can you imagine with our brains, because he's going to resurrect us. We're not going to worry about that. We're not going to sit around and podcast.
Does this dress make me look fat?
Yeah, really. I don't think you brought anything to the table, Anna Gray. Oh my gosh.
That's how I feel in the dating world too. The same thing as meetings. Yeah. Sorry. Squirrel. But wait.
Whoa. Explain.
It's the same idea of I'm not good enough. What if they don't perceive me the right way? Yeah. Literally the same. Oh man. Yeah. You know, the same thing.
Why didn't you ask
my love is their love is contingent on, how perfect my winged eyeliner is, and
or my performance.
Which ends up at all. You know what? Okay, as a result of all of this, dating, business meetings, just peopling in general, we end up building a facade of ourselves. It's not really us.
That is not us.
And anxiety is not a bad thing, but when that dictates like who we are, where when our human nature comes to the surface, people are going to see it at some point. We end up like selling ourselves so short, but also like masking who we actually are.
It's really a conundrum because I mean, seriously, we can build ourselves up. I was just thinking, how we feel about a certain given situation. We feel like we fit in, we feel good, we feel great. It's wonderful. We can't believe we're doing this kind of thing. And then we walk away from it like, why was I feeling so prideful? It's like, we might as well, we're like dogs eating ourselves or something. I don't know. I don't know the solution, except for turning to the Father. And I also think we've lived long enough to realize, that who knows how our words are affecting somebody else. So it might, you hope, you pray that what you say is good and right, and you move forward and you do it. But I the alternative, Anna Gray Smith, is not participating in life.
Yeah. And just giving up on life, throwing it out.
Just simply saying, I'm not going to speak up. What's the alternative? I'm just going to just kick myself all the time. I mean, I know, and I brought this up before, but it's the same thing with your work. It's like, I call my book The Wee Little Book, but it's interesting to have people. Someone said something to me on Sunday about it, and I was extremely touched, and I realized if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't say the things, and that was an ego stroke. It was just like, what I really appreciated is like somebody out there read it and found value, and it was helping, and they found it interesting, and they were talking about the story. So it was, the deal is we want to help others, but there is that little, I'll say to God, I want to help others, but can I sell some books? I mean, it's like, but I'm honest. I really do want to help others, but at the same time, sales are always good. But I think the thing is, you don't not write a book. You don't not do a job.
You don't not do a podcast.
You don't.
We do something with a podcast though. We're like,
we don't have anything to say.
Yeah, we're like, we only have 30. Well, we have more than 30 subscribers now.
I don't think it was that many. I don't think, but and here we go. We put on our little business outfits and we're like, hope air flats, and we do it. I think the thing is, we still need to step up to the plate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Be brave, be courageous.
Yeah. Because I mean, if we hadn't, think about the surprises. Think about the interesting things that we would not have listened to or heard, or in your work the people you wouldn't have met, or the things I haven't written about. Maybe, you think about it. It is true. Only you can do what you can do.
And even if something really bad happens, like say you speak up, you post the episode, whatever that looks like. I think going through that is actually really kind of a beautiful process, because it's like sometimes the fear itself is worse than actually going through it.
That is true.
Because we haven't been like showered in negative comments, mostly because I didn't know how to turn the comments on for approximately 1 year.
Sorry about that.
But, you know,
we've only
a few
been told we're not
comments
Christians.
Or, you know, my like tank top was risque and my winged eyeliner was not approved of. Yes. But also, you know, it's not a bad thing to have a, you know, face a negative comment. I'm not saying like, oh, it's okay, it's life-giving, but I think in realizing, wait, I'm still standing tall. I still hold my values true. Nothing's changed inside. Like, I think of it as like when there's a really crazy downpour outside, but like you can still be inside and like, you know, it's dry, it's warm, it's safe. You know, even if it's like catastrophic.
Well, and
just outside,
and
it's
too,
the same way with
you have the pleasure and the true sense of the word of knowing that you did your best.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and that you showed up for it.
Yeah.
You know, and
David and his little stone.
But I think that's the moral of the story, that you show up for it and you do it, because if you don't, you know, I mean, we were told at the beginning, you know, you're told things when you're writers like, oh yeah, you do this and this, and like, no, not everybody gets published. Not everybody, you know, like it's very few people who get bestsellers or even who sell enough books. But we were told at the Moral T, like the deal is the fact that you actually have a podcast and you didn't just talk about it. How many times have I talked about something and not done it? We did it.
Yeah. You know? We pressed the buttons. I think it's like important. One of my values, I don't know if this is a value though, is like being a coward towards life too. I really don't want that.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I so consumed in my image and how I'm perceived that I'm afraid to fail at something, look bad, mess something up. And then
that's it.
You know?
That is the solution. That is exactly what it is. I don't think we want validation as much as we're afraid that we look stupid.
I think it's a lot of different things at different times, but that's a huge one. Yeah. I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to embarrass myself, look like a fool. Because then if I do, that means I am forever tainted. My reputation is then, I'm
remembered as this.
I'm remembered as this. That's my identity. And then it gives, you know, all the power, all the control to outward.
So the moral of the story is, because I want to go eat some, I want to go eat dinner. We
really want some pad thai.
Yeah.
I don't know. People, be courageous, onward marching soldiers.
Be bold, be strong and courageous, to quote the Joshua thing. Because otherwise we're missing out, and someone else may be too.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to initially feel the fear, but when you actually face it and you start to confront that and go through it, because you can go around and around and around and have the what if, but it's like going through it. It's okay to feel like the squeamish likeness inside. It's okay to feel your palms get sweaty and, you know, like you might vomit and prolapse your organs. Oh, but there's so much beauty to be found. It is so worth it.
Worth it to take the walk.
You will cross marathon finish lines. You will publish books.
That's right.
You will go to...
Well, you will go to places that you never thought you would go.
You will go out of the Shire into Mordor. Whoa, and I'm taking it back to our intro. Can I bite off your finger?
No. I want my
I have a
finger.
Ring. You can use my spoon.
No. No. I am a woman.
No. If it were now, she would be like, I am AON slash. I am no man slash she slash. I am they slash.
So we'll end on the good, right, the end of the Lord of the Rings note.
Yeah.
Yes. Touche.
Hey, I'm Renee Leonard Kennedy.
And I am Anna Gray Smith.
And we make up
Moral T Podcast.
Yes, we're so glad that you're listening to us. And we want to encourage you to like and subscribe at
Moral T Podcast on YouTube,
at pray.com,
and Instagram at Moral T Podcast.
Yes.
We will catch you every Monday.
Bye.
Peace.